Let's do that again, though. I like the drum.
That's our theme song.
Yep, that's that.
Hi, doggy. Hi.
Okay.
Hi, cutie. I found our friend. This is our co-host. This is Scruffy the dog.
Scruffy, the dog toy.
Okay. So we should. I'm gonna start asking. I'm gonna ask a few unplanned questions first.
Okay. Let's go.
What did you have for breakfast today?
I usually don't eat breakfast, but I did have a granola bar this morning just in preparation for you coming over, so I would have maximum energy.
You know, it's kind of amazing to me that you always come across energized in the morning, even though you don't have breakfast. I have always been a breakfast guy.
I feel like, I don't know, I've just never enjoyed eating in the morning. It kind of makes me feel a little funny, so ever since I was a little kid, maybe I'll eat like a banana or something.
Really?
But I would say I'm not a morning guy in that I hate getting out of bed, but I am a morning guy in that once I'm out of bed, I do tend to have like the most energy of the day.
I like that. So for the audience members listening to this, Alex and I are actually sitting kitty corner from each other. Mm-hmm. So Alex is about a foot from me, 2 feet from me.
We can smell each other basically.
We can smell each
what
other.
You need to know.
We're drinking. We have Zoe the dog right here, a husky. We are both drinking cinnamon tea from the Hillis household. We are in Alex Hillis' house in Irondequoit, New York, the beautiful Somerville neighborhood.
You got it.
Which one thing I love about this neighborhood is the proximity to the lake, which you take massive advantage of. Mm-hmm. I would say Somerville is like one of the most amazing real estate niches in Rochester.
Kind of like a hidden gem, right?
Yeah.
Because people don't really know where it is, but we're right up on the kind of the confluence of the Genesee River and Lake Ontario, and we've got this like weird little beach like a block from the house, which I was just paddleboarding out yesterday, just for like an hour before I went to my friend's wedding.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, you have become an outdoors person.
Yeah, I would say more so, definitely within the past couple of years, than I used to be.
Do you, what sparked that?
That is a very good question. Because it was definitely motivated by something. And I was never, like I always, when I was a kid, I would hike around and goof off and, spend a lot of time outdoors with friends, biking around. Mm-hmm. Back in the days when bicycles were like the best thing in the world. Mm-hmm. But kind of like as an adult, I had gotten away from that a little bit, being a part of nature or pursuing it, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of discovered a couple of years ago that it was an important part of my, I guess, mental health journey. Right. And that being in nature is something that really brings me a lot of peace. And it was like a process discovering how to really connect with it. I mean, I know you have like a journey with nature as well. I mean, you partially inspired me, with some of this stuff. You've taken me on a lot of hikes.
My journey started when I was a kid, and maybe it's because my mom was such an outdoors person. Mm. She's at her best when she's in the woods. I don't know if I've told you this or not, but they live on the land. You've been out there before.
Yeah.
There's so many nights and so many afternoons where mom is just hanging out in the woods working on trails. That's like her biggest hobby.
Oh, really? Your mom, clears brush?
She just goes into the woods and, works on her trails.
Oh, I didn't know anything about this.
She is at her happiest, so she volunteers quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then, oftentimes in the afternoon, she says, I'm going to leave my phone in the house. And she just goes into the woods, and she is happiest when she's clearing trails.
Really?
So this is like her vision for her life.
Sounds very meditative.
She often says how she's like, I just want more time to do that because she's volunteering so much. Mm-hmm. And so she almost feels like she has to carve out time to be in the woods. But she is so happy just walking her trails, clearing brush, making more trails. She has these trails that she's been working on for, 30 plus years, my whole life. And she loves that. It makes her very happy.
Would you say that she's been because you mentioned her first off the top of your mind, has she been your biggest inspiration in terms of being a nature lover?
I think she is a big influence there. I think that my grandfather also was very close to my grandpa.
Yeah.
He spent his retirement just like hanging out in the woods, building fires, drinking Bud Red, walking around in the woods, looking at animals. That's kind of what he did.
Yeah.
My dad is also has a love of nature. I don't think he spends as much time in nature as, say, Mom does, but he still loves nature. And I was in Cub Scouts.
Yeah.
So my first camp out, went on that camp out with my dad. We were in the woods, in tents. It was gritty. We were around a campfire when we were 5 years old. And then on weekends, my little brother and I would often hang out in a tent in the front yard.
Classic.
And we just have a tent in the front yard.
Yeah.
We'd just be, I actually still have the sleeping bags we would use. It's kind of weird.
I feel like you told me a story recently about camping in the winter, and I think it was your scoutmaster or something said something to you, which I can't remember exactly.
Yes.
But it was pretty cool. What was that again?
Yeah, Kevin Kennelly, an amazing guy, and maybe I'll send this to him. He is certainly one person that I would consider somewhat of a father figure when I was a kid. I was fortunate. I have my dad, who is a great dad, but then I have a lot of other positive father figures that I've had in my life. So Kevin said, when I was a kid, I joined Boy Scouts. I was 11. I had this big old backpacking backpack that I purchased. I was so excited to have a backpacking backpack full of gear, just full of random gear that most of it wasn't actually being used. And it was a Saturday morning, and we were at a winter camp out in a cabin in Camp Cutler, just south of here. And some of the older kids we're gonna climb up the hill and go on an overnight up the hill, so winter camping, not in a cabin.
Yeah.
And they asked us, anyone else want to be on this trek? And I said, yeah, I want to be on it. So I got my big old backpack.
Yeah, bring me along.
With the older kids, I was 11. We were supposed to bring our own food.
Yeah.
So I brought a can of sirloin burger soup up with me.
I love that you remember the kind of soup you brought.
I love soup, and I loved that soup, and I loved this experience. So
just for the record, you are your favorite food category is soup, correct?
It is my favorite food category. So
wait, hold on. So Ben was once to anybody that may be watching this. The one time, or at least the first time that Ben visited my home with my family.
Yes.
I think we even went out to a bar and had a couple of drinks, and then came back, and then Ben kind of went through my mom's pantry, and there was just so much soup, and he was just floored by the amount and variety of Campbell's soup that my mom had there. This was like 11 o'clock at night, and we're throwing soup in the microwave, and this is Ben's happy place.
She had way more soup than I'd ever seen in someone's house, partially because I grew up in a house where I would just eat the soup. And so did my dad and Ted. We all loved eating soup. So I was floored that you guys had such amazing soups and that no one had claimed them yet.
It's my mom. She likes to stock all these soups. She's a big soup person too. Yeah. Maybe she would enjoy talking with you about Campbell's soup or whatever, Progresso.
We can do an interview.
Whatever you're into.
We can do an interview on soups.
We'll set that up next with my mom and you. You guys can talk soup.
Let's talk about the pearl noodles in the Progresso. All right, so I won't tell you what Kevin said though.
I totally interrupted you.
This is good. And I have questions for you. So Kevin
Good.
said, I was, again, 11, ready to hike up a hill with the older scouts and camp outside, which I was so excited and nervous about. You know, we were going to hike up there with all we needed for the night.
Yeah.
My first winter camp out, one of my first camp outs as a scout without my dad there. So it was a big deal. And before we were going up the hill, Kevin Kennelly said, guys, all your other classmates in 6th grade are home right now, and they're watching cartoons, and they're eating cereal.
Yeah.
You are here, out here in the cold. You are about to climb up a mountain, a hill, and camp out in the cold, and make your food, and this is an experience that you'll remember forever, and this is what Boy Scouts will be like for you.
Yeah.
You're going to be doing things that your other middle school classmates can't even imagine on the weekends. So we climbed up that hill.
Yeah.
And it was one of my first times, you know, digging a hole in the ground and going to the bathroom in that hole in the middle of the night.
Oh.
It's just a good experience. I mean, that experience stays with me.
It's funny
and
the details.
It was. I have
the
I have
soup, the hole, the things you remember.
I'll add one more anecdote to it. And
Yeah.
I do have a bunch of questions for you. So
Sure.
With the soup, one of the older scouts, I had this mess kit, metal mess kit, which those are actually not the best for winter campouts.
Okay.
Metal heat leaks through metal very fast. Mm-hmm. So I was heating up my soup in my metal mess kit that I was going to then eat out of. It's a sirloin burger soup, and I ate most of the soup, but at that time I wasn't eating the green beans in the soup. And I was 11.
Yeah.
So I had them left over in the bottom of the soup, and I go to one of the older scouts, and I said, it was Ross. So Kevin Kelly's son. I go, Ross, what should I do with the beans? I don't eat the beans. And he's like, well, you eat them. And I was like, oh, okay.
And then you just accepted
And I
it.
just
You
ate
accepted
it.
that.
I was like, oh yeah, you're right. This is what people do. So he's like, so I thought, and I had gone to him with a question: what should I do with these beans that I don't want to eat? I was an 11-year-old, so that whole experience did help develop me
into a bean eater.
into a bean eater.
That was the moment you went from no beans to beans all the time.
Do you have an experience where it kind of rocked you like that? I mean, this isn't a question we talked about, but I mean, you seem to have grown a lot in college. Mm-hmm. Like huge, man. You were, when I went to college, I was still living close to home, 20 minutes away. Mm-hmm. And I had an instant friend group from being on the cross country and track team.
Yeah,
I had friends from high school who I ran with in college, right? Mm-hmm. You were going to a completely new place, 3.5, 4 hours away from your home.
Yeah.
And you didn't necessarily have that set friend group right off the bat. So it was a massive independent moment, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you were pretty independent as a high schooler too, but that must have been must have been a massive change in your life at that point. Big growing experience.
I mean, yeah, I think leaving home as, a 17, 18-year-old for anybody is necessarily, there's a lot of transformative experiences that follow that. And my whole life has been a series of transformative experiences, with small things like eating beans, all the way up to the really big stuff. I was eating beans from the start, by the way. But no, I as a young person, as a child, into high school, being a teenager and everything, I was very, very painfully antisocial. Didn't really have any friends. A lot going on in the old head, I guess. Mm-hmm. And that was very hard for me. And when I went off to college, which of course for anybody is kind of like a scary experience, and that those first friends that you find, that can be a big thing for anybody. But for me, I ran into these people that were like super nice, like kind people. which I wasn't really used to being around when I was younger. You know, it was a little bit more of a like a kind of a rude crowd, I guess. Let's put it that way. I was trying to look for the right word.
Yeah.
But, you know, kind of coming across these kind people that were just very nice to me and seemed to want to be friends with me. And they were like such a huge influence on me. In particular, this one guy that just was like the epicenter of this crowd. And I've told you about this.
Yeah.
But this guy named Pat, a college friend, he was just like a super nice guy and would share everything that he had with everybody. That he knew, and like never, like most critically, he like never said anything negative about anybody else.
Love that.
And I had never
Massive.
This might sound weird, but I had never really run into somebody like that before, or if I had, it had been in passing. But nobody within my bubble had ever been like that. And I just started observing him because I was still painfully antisocial, even though I was kind of somewhat a part of this group of friends that had kind of gotten in there. But I started kind of observing what he was doing and how he acted because everybody wanted to be around this guy like all the time.
Huge.
And like I wanted that for myself. I wanted to be, you know, I wanted people to like me. I wanted to have good social relationships, of course. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of started doing what he was doing, and I learned a lot from him, and he was this like amazing role model for me. Not that I ever really like acknowledged that to him. But you know, just connecting the dots, you were kind of hinting at transformative experiences in college. So that was kind of my big coming out moment, I guess, was learning social skills from some other people and then like actively practicing that and then transforming into the beautiful butterfly that I am today.
Well, you are, I think you are very good in social situations. You're very socially competent. And that's one of the things that initially drew me to you as a friend. Mm-hmm. You know, I was like, wow, this is basically the most gregarious man. Can I describe me meeting you? And I'll
yeah, please do.
Okay.
I can talk about this all day.
So the background is Alex and I work together. We work together. We've known each other since college. We are now 34 and 35 years young. And we met in college. We were in a class together. A marketing class?
Yeah.
We were in a marketing class together.
You got it.
We were in the same group.
Was that senior year? That was senior year, right? We met, or did we meet at like the end of junior year?
Senior year, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, beginning of senior year.
I think we were actually in 2 classes together.
Okay.
So we were also in, there was like a math-oriented class that we were in together.
Okay.
And so we
Statistics or something like that.
Yeah, stat. So I saw you in action in both. And, you know, I was like, okay, this is a very... And then also you worked at the 7-Eleven, I think it was, or the gas station.
7-Eleven now. It used to be called like Sugar Creek or something like that when we were going there.
And I used to go in there to get Hot Pockets and beer. And
of course.
Right. So I would walk in and you would be just this gregarious, super outgoing guy. And you would be owning the gas station. You know, everybody would walk in, you'd say, hey, how you doing? And everyone's like, you know, hey, this is Alex, the gas station guy. And then I saw you specifically in action in the stat class. We might have had one small group project in the stat class.
Okay. And
you had a very analytical mind. So I remember seeing how you thought through math problems and how you had this. So you had this. I thought, okay, he has this analytical mind. He is very good at solving problems. He's thinking out of the box here and picking this stuff up way faster than I was at the time.
Oh, okay.
So I saw you in those 2 environments, and then we weren't, big friends at that point. We weren't hanging out.
Yeah, kind of like friendly acquaintances.
Yeah. We were
really
friendly acquaintances.
Yeah.
So from there, you jokingly asked if there was a position at St. Pauli, right?
Okay, I think what I said at the time, we were working on a project.
Yeah.
Because I do remember this. This is actually a key point in our evolution together. Yes. We were working on a project, and like something I found out in this moment. We were like sitting in the library or something that you work for a family business.
Family business, yeah.
And like this was senior year. We had professors saying like, the best, in order to get a job, you need to network. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. I guess that means I have to like talk with people about getting a job or make friends or something.
Yeah.
So like it came up with your family business, and I said something to the effect of, yeah, maybe when we graduate, I can come work for you and your dad. And then like you gave me this look, like it was kind of uncomfortable, like you didn't know how to respond to that. You're like, yeah, maybe, Alex. Like in your head, why is this guy saying this?
That is hilarious.
It was a little awkward.
That is hilarious. But then, I guess I thought it through, and I realized, wait, and we were expanding. We were going to expand the business in a different region.
Yeah.
So, again, I saw that Alex was the most gregarious guy. I saw that you were the most gregarious guy on campus and had this big old math mind. And we were also expanding in a region close to where you're from. Mm-hmm. So it made logical sense, right? It just made sense. And I don't know if we decided on doing that region before you and I connected or after. I honestly don't remember that detail. But, geez, that was how many years ago? So that was like 13 years ago.
It's so funny to hear you
13 years ago
describe me that way, because at the time, like working at the gas station there, and like you were saying, just trying to be friends with everybody that walked in the door while I'm behind the register. It was amazing. Cracking jokes.
It was incredible.
Like that was me actively practicing, like intentionally practicing social skills. To like almost like overcompensating for my history as an antisocial person. So amazing. Like that, none of that ever came naturally to me. Like it's much more natural to me now, but it's just strange to hear that, when someone describes who you were at a certain point, and to think back about what you were thinking and doing at that time.
It's amazing because, like you said, that was something that you had to really push maybe in the beginning to develop, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like going outside your comfort zone.
Big time.
And I think we both... I know some people that I would have considered... that I would consider natural, gregarious, outgoing people. Mm. And as I've gotten to know them more, kids that I grew up with who were super, super outgoing and social. Yeah. As I get to know them more, I realize they also are introverts inside.
Really?
Like they have that introvert inside, though.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a theme there.
Which I think that's I think the people who might be the most outgoing, they're doing it because they want to have the social interactions with people. They're being thoughtful about it, right? But they're possibly introverted. Possibly very... I consider myself a bit of a mix, an introvert, extrovert.
Well,
where do you think you're from?
Well, how
introvert? It's a scale, right?
Forgetting the lingo of like introvert and extrovert, because that's a whole nother thing. But just in terms of being like socially outgoing and I don't know, maybe charismatic, you seem to have a similar. I think is part of the reason why you and I get along so well is you seem to have kind of a similar story.
Exactly.
And you are also, in my mind, have always been like the gold standard of gregarious people that I know. So it makes sense that you're talking about it in this way, because I think you and I kind of share that path a little bit.
We do, and I think we both understand and appreciate that more.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if I'd been super gregarious and outgoing and, the top of the heap when I was a kid, maybe I wouldn't have the same drive I have now to be super social. Mm-hmm. I have no idea. It is interesting that we both have had that experience, though. I know it's done two things for me. Created a level of motivation, career motivation, and social motivation, and also an empathy for people who haven't developed those skills. Mm-hmm. So, if I'm at a party and I see someone who maybe they're feeling a little socially awkward. Yeah. I feel somewhat as if it's my job to, connect with them.
I kind of feel the same way, because I feel like I'm looking at myself through like a time mirror. It's
amazing, right?
Yeah.
So it's a good thing that we had those experiences.
Yeah.
In retrospect.
Oh, big time.
It made us who we are now.
Now, why do we want to be like that? to not just be social, but to be
like really good at it.
Very social,
like really like good at it.
Yeah,
where we can make friends with people.
Like what about that has always been attractive to you?
I bet that goes back to it does unlock a lot of things. So, speaking kind of from a survival, the survival of an animal type of thing. Mm-hmm. If I am a social guy, I will have a rich, successful life. It's just naturally going to be that way, right? So if I have these guy friends in my life who I've had, I'm going to be friends with you for the rest of my life. I'm just going to be friends with you.
We're stuck with each other.
Like when I'm 90, I'm going to be like, hey, let's go on a hike with our exoskeletons on. We're going to be wearing our exoskeletons, and we're going to be pounding up a trail.
Yeah.
Wearing exoskeletons, and it'll be.
I didn't realize our future was so exciting to get it together.
Exoskeletons sound
amazing.
That's Elon Musk's next business venture.
Yeah.
Exoskeletons for elderly.
I think that's Ben DeGeorge's next business venture.
I would love to make an exoskeleton, but it does having the social power does obviously it does unlock opportunities in our lives. So it unlocks career opportunities, business opportunities, what have you. It also makes for people do like being around people. We do like it. It makes us happy. Like when we're around a friend who loves us, we just feel good. I mean, as simple as that. Going back to all of our ancestors, they wanted to have friends around.
Yeah.
Alex, and Ugg Ben were sitting on a log 30,000 years ago, and they were just like they were on a Sunday morning. The Uggs would have walked through the woods and looked for a squirrel to eat, and then they would have just sat around on a log, basically just doing the same stuff that we're doing today. And they would have been walking around and pointing at a bird and been like, "Yeah, look at that bird." And then they were just doing the same stuff we're doing now, but in a different way. And their teeth were falling out already. So like we need that. We need that. I think in order to we need certain things to have a rich life. And I think about that a lot. I think you and I both have come to the conclusion that we need to have health. That's very important. We need to have the financial stability and the career success and the actualization of something that we can really push ourselves into.
Yeah. That
can be hobbies too. We need to have the friends. We need to have the relationships. You have Brittany.
Yeah.
That's huge. I'm a single guy. We need to input information into our brain too. We need to learn. We kind of need all of it in order to maximize happiness. Would you say? I mean,
100%. I mean, obviously there's, well, maybe not so obviously, but in my mind, there's many different elements that contribute to my happiness.
Yeah.
But yeah, that socialization factor. I think possibly the most important thing in my mind in terms of that pursuit of happiness is to love and be loved. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. Not everybody necessarily, but to me, that's almost like the pinnacle, the paradigm of happiness, and that having those strong social skills, and being able to build community with other people, and just like enjoy interaction that's like the tool to love and be loved. And if you don't have those skills, it's a lot harder to achieve that. So, and I think that's something you and I, very like instinctively, I wouldn't have been able to put that into words back then. But that's something I instinctively knew that I needed and had to figure out a way to like solve that problem. And I imagine you had probably a similar thing going on in the back of your teenage brain.
Huge.
And our UGG versions probably had the same thing going on.
So there's another scenario. You and I are gonna all right. So you got a bun in the oven.
That's true.
You got a bun in the oven. At some point down the road,
I put a bun in the oven, actually.
Yeah! Oh, we just fist bumped across screens.
Yeah.
Woo! And you got a bun in the oven, but so someday, when you are elderly, you're going to have stuff around you, most likely. You're going to have family around you. You're going to have friends around you. I was driving the other day, and I went to this gas station, and there was this elderly gentleman who, he looked like he was living a pretty poor life, to be honest with you, right? He looked like there was some stuff happening in his life that was hard. And I just like held the door for him or something, right? And he's like, we got to talking. And he's like, yeah, I just live in the house down the road, and I've been there, my whole life, and don't really have a family, and I just kind of live in that house, and it's like what I do. And I don't really hang out with anybody. I was like, oh my God, right? Like
did he seem unhappy?
He did seem unhappy. So, and he seemed physically to be in a rough spot as well. And he was, doing the good old, like, complaining about some stuff too.
Yeah.
But I thought, wow, that is a certain path that some people do get on. Where you can take divergent...
A lot of people.
You can take divergent paths in life. I mean, you can basically take any path in life. You can't take all the paths. You can take one path.
Yeah. And
all those paths are open at a certain point. I'm just glad that you and I took the social path.
We are very fortunate people.
Dude,
in so many ways.
We're white guys in the U.S. in 2022.
It's certainly a part of it. Middle class, U.S. citizens, but the opportunities we've had, apart from the background, just the little opportunities along the learning opportunities we've been given that we have certainly taken advantage of. But it's like the certain going back to role models, like the role models. I think you've been a huge role model for me in my life in many ways.
Thanks.
I think that's worth mentioning. And the few role models I've had in my life, just fate that I encountered those people. Yeah. So I've chosen to learn from role models, but I just have a lot of gratitude for that kind of stuff.
Beckett, I mean, when you think of having a child, in 6 months or so, or how long?
November 18th, due date.
Wild.
Prediction.
What do you hope that their experience as a kid is like? I didn't let you prep for this at all. Just
hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, ask me whatever. It's all good. Okay. I feel like we're grooving here.
Yeah.
It's so hard for me to answer that question right now. Because this will be my first child, and I could say something cliche, like I just want my kid to be happy, which is true.
Oh yeah.
Of course, that's going to be the goal.
Yeah.
But I think I'll hold off on commenting on that until I actually have the kid in my hands and I'm looking at the thing, and we'll save the visions and plans for that moment. I'm here right now. We're working on the pregnancy right now, so I'm kind of like a one thing at a time kind of guy.
That's a good approach to take.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you obviously want every, what everybody says. Right?
Yeah.
Healthy.
Oh, for 100%.
Whatever.
Yeah.
All that good stuff.
Of course.
So, I would like to ask you some questions about Brittany.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
She's like my favorite person in the world, so I could probably talk about her for hours.
When I think of your relationship, I think of it as one of the best, healthy, loving relationships I've ever seen. Wow. And I've talked about this to other people. I feel like when I am in a relationship in the future, I'll be using yours as a model in many ways. You both seem to go on adventures together. I mean, there's a lot to it. What do you love about it?
Okay, first of all, that is very humbling for you to say that. Huge. And you have said that to me once or twice before.
It's a good relationship.
That is pretty amazing to hear that that's your observation.
It's a good relationship.
I'm sorry, I just lost track of your question. What was the question?
What do you love about this relationship?
Oh my god. Well,
just rip it, man.
Yeah, no.
What do you love about her?
There's so much.
What do you love about her?
I mean, it just starts with the fact that Brittany is just like an unbelievable person. She's kind. She's patient.
Yeah.
I'll use an example that my mom gave when we first started dating. Was that we went on this little trip or something. My grandma was very old and senile at the time, and we met up with my grandma, my uncle, and my parents, and we kind of met in some parking lot. I don't really remember the circumstances, but my grandma was like trying to get out of the car, and Brittany immediately like hopped out of our car when we pulled up, ran over, and like started trying to help my grandma out of the car.
Amazing.
And my mom talked about that afterwards, and she said, as soon as I saw Brittany do that, I just knew she was like a very special, like kind person.
I love that.
And like plenty of people would help the grandma out of the car, but there's just something about Brittany where she just like radiates this sweetness and kindness, and that's always drawn me in from the first moment I saw her. And actually, I kind of met her. She was kind of going back to the origin story. She was kind of a referral through a friend, if you will, a blind date. And for some reason, I asked her if she wanted to go to the Rochester Zoo with me for our first date. Don't really have a good explanation for that, other than I was feeling creative.
That's a great date.
It really was. But I got her address, went to pick her up at her apartment, and I will never forget this. She walked out of her front door. I texted her or called her or whatever. I said, I'm here. She walked out of her front door and tripped over her own doormat.
What?
And I'm like, I saw her, I'm like, okay. In my mind, like, something clicked. Like, this woman is a klutz. And that's very endearing. And she kind of recovered, walked towards the car, and she's just, like, blushing and, like very shy. And she gets in the car, I'm like, all of the good things radiated from her that something instinctive, like a connection. So again, I could talk about Brittany for hours, but what I really love about my relationship with her is that at this point in time, we've been together like 9 years, I think. And at this point, it just feels so easy to be with her. And that's how I would sum it up. Just it's like weirdly simple and easy. And I think everybody has probably been in a relationship where it's like exciting at first and then gets very difficult over time as conflicts kind of escalate and resentments build. Yeah. And you're always moving in one direction or another, right? Yeah. Whether it's, building a business or working on a project or a relationship. It's like everything's always changing. Right. So you're moving in some direction, and hopefully it's a positive direction. And it's always been a consistently positive direction over the years with us. So to the point where it now feels just so simple, but not boring. So I would sum it up that way, I guess.
I mean, she adores you.
I'm a very lucky dude.
She adores you, and you adore her.
I do.
You adore her. I mean, you guys adore each other. I love that relationship. Like you guys are happy to see each other. At the end of the day, you're happy to talk to each other when you're on the road. You're thinking about her. She's your lady.
When the pandemic hit, I heard people say, like, "Oh, it's like crazy. Like divorces are skyrocketing because people are stuck at home with each other, and like, because the conflict becomes very real when you're with someone 24/7. When the pandemic hit and we were both working from home, we were both like, "This is awesome. We love hanging out with each other like all the time. This is so fun."
Do you think you had to go through some relationships that were not as good to get here? I mean, do you think you had to have those experiences to get here?
Yes, necessarily. Kind of. I mean,
not you had to. You did. Obviously, not to insult anything with the past. Great people that you dated, but
let's just say I've learned a lot and took some valuable lessons into when my relationship with Brittany started. And I think a lot of people can probably identify with this, but I was in a very cynical place when I met Brittany, dating wise. And I think when you have some bad experiences, it's easy to get into that headspace where it's like, this is like, I'm no good at dating or like relationships aren't for me or whatever. I think a lot of people can say, they've been in that headspace. Mm-hmm. And then Brittany just turned that thing upside down first date. It was like, I was thinking all these unreasonable thoughts while I was on that first date with her. Like,
Were you?
yeah, because I went from a place like the day before. I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm gonna go on this date and meet this woman, but like, I don't know. It's just dating sucks. And then I meet her. I see her. She's like radiating all of these good things. We're holding hands by the end of our date at the zoo. We're looking at the monkeys. She likes the wolves. We're having a good time. And then I'm just all of a sudden thinking these completely opposite thoughts about like, oh, I think do I want to be with this woman for the rest of my life? No, am I thinking that? That makes no sense. That's silly. And then here we are, 9 years later, married. We got a kid on the way.
It's pretty awesome to see that. Again, and you two have a lot of shared interests, but you also have your own hobbies and interests. That's a neat thing that I see in your relationship. You're not doing everything together.
Right.
You do have a lot of stuff that you do together. What is there something that she does that is different than completely where do you guys separate on hobbies?
I think she likes completely different entertainment.
Yeah.
Like she's like I'm trying to think of a good example of what she likes that I could care less for. Like she likes a show called The Vampire Diaries that she's been watching her whole life.
You don't watch that every day?
She watches her own stuff. I watch my own.
Yeah.
It's all good.
That's good. That's okay.
I'm not trashing anything that she's into. It's just
this
different tastes.
This is actually good for people to hear. Yeah. That it's okay to watch different stuff.
Oh my god, yeah.
It's okay for you to go for 2 hours out in the woods and go on a hike.
Yeah.
And to come back and that's okay. That's cool.
Yeah, to that point, with good friends like you, I'll spend a lot of time away just hanging out with you. I prioritize friendships sometimes. Not over my relationship with Brittany, but there's a place for everything. So you and I can go off on a trip. I mean, we went to the Keys last year. You and I did. Yeah. Man time. I think that's really important. I think we all need to have our lives outside of the relationship. It's actually critical, I think, for a successful relationship. Yeah. I don't know if that was a tangent there, but
no, this is good. This is important. Okay, yeah, I think that's. Do you feel like you have to work to consciously maintain this relationship, or does it feel easy, or is it both?
Fantastic question. So now, like I said, it feels very easy, but that's only because all of the work, we did early on in the relationship. Because obviously I was floored by her when we met. And, we had the puppy love, but I loved her so much from the start that I was just like firing on all cylinders. Like I need to do everything I can to make this as successful as possible. I can't speak for her, but that was my own perspective. Yeah. So we put in this big investment of relationship building, and a big part of that, I think, has always been, people say communication is like the most critical thing, but to break that down a little bit, it's like anytime I was having any sort of negative feeling, which was frequently because I had all these bad habits, some of which still exist. But like I have a history of being like arrogant, egotistical, defensive, sensitive. These are all qualities I would describe about my past self and even my current self to some degree.
Wow.
And they would necessarily cause negative feelings over in certain situations. We all have these little spats and things and points of conflict, and especially when you spend a lot of time with someone. So anytime I was having a feeling like that early on, I just made a point of like addressing it, even though it was really uncomfortable. Yeah. So rather than being like maybe irritated by something between us, I would say, hey, I'm having this feeling where like I'm feeling irritated or impatient or uncomfortable, and I don't necessarily want to talk about it, but I feel like I have to talk about it because I need to get to the bottom of it, and I need to be a better man. Wow. And I think we both went through this process of change within the relationship early on. Yeah. And the personal growth I experienced through dating Brittany and falling in love with her and becoming a better man was monumental because of all of that constant communication. Because it's very easy, like if you get minorly irritated by something someone says, to just say, hey, it's just a little thing and let it go. But those little details in relationships, those tiny little things,
need to be unraveled.
Because otherwise, and this is so common, I think, with people, they become something bigger than they were ever meant to be over time. You know, they reoccur and they become irritations and resentments. And once resentments are building, you're on the wrong track, right? I mean, maybe... I know that you're a big fan of talking about everything, so I'm sure you can identify with this.
I am now. When I was married, we didn't have that healthy, open communication. I obviously decided to take full responsibility for that over the last 4 years. So I've been actively working over the last 4 years from the time when my ex-wife and I split till now.
Yeah. To
become a really open, good communicator to where I'm comfortable pulling on the strings whenever there's something uncomfortable.
Yeah. You've done that you've done that with me, by the way, if I could just interject. Like,
and it can be
which I really appreciate.
And it can be an awkward experience,
but
because it's kind of like it can be awkward, right? Because like
it is awkward
in the beginning. It can be really strange when you tug on those things because you feel like you're maybe it comes across as attacking, or it comes across as like it sounds strange, especially with friends. In relationships, it sounds strange too, right?
It's intentional conflict. You're creating conflict by addressing. You're creating
a thing
active.
That's there.
You're creating active conflict by addressing passive conflict, essentially.
Yes. So it does. It's like jumping into the fire out of the slightly warm pan, but then you come out of the fire and you're stronger for it, and the relationship is stronger for it. I think us guys, maybe this is off, just my opinion. I think that us guys are not as good as women are at this out of the box. So we have to learn how to do this. This is not something that we're taught how to do necessarily, how to tug on the little strings. But it is very, very important. It makes us better in business. You know, if there's a little bit of that disconnect in business, and if we tug on that string, it often does lead to a good thing. And maybe it can start awkward, but it often does lead to a realization on both parts. Yeah. Because you're not coming into a situation like that, an awkward conflict situation. You're not coming in blaming the other person.
Right. Well, that's the key.
Because like sometimes you realize, oh wait, my head's off a little bit here.
Yeah.
I don't understand the situation. You know,
like if I'm irritated by something, you know, and I want to talk about it, I need to take ownership of the feeling rather than
putting blame
on someone that, you know, like in my gut, I'm wanting to do that, but like in order to promote healthy growth and I guess mediation even. And it works. We got to take ownership of that stuff.
And it works when there's like a base of love there, right? It works when there's a base of like a solid base. Yeah. It doesn't work the same if there's already, you know, that like really deep seated conflict. Right. You kind of have to have a bit of a clean slate, I think.
That makes sense. I think just to kind of wrap up that thought between myself and Brittany. Yeah. We've definitely both acknowledged many times that when we have those little conflicts, we always, every single time, are able to resolve them like very quickly within a matter of minutes once we just choose to address them and talk about them. And then back to that, what you just described as like a clean slate, back to that simple state of like, everything's great, you know, and just like keeping. It's like good habit, building those habits and keeping it that way. You know, that investment builds into like these amazing rewards down the road. If you can do that early on with someone you have a relationship with, man, woman, you know, whatever. It's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, and you can see the situations where people don't, you know, deal with those problems along the way. Not to pass judgment, but you can see these things. Actually, I want to tell you an anecdote that I may or may not have told you about.
Yeah, please do.
Going back to my scout master, my scout leader, Kevin Canelli. Maybe I told you this. he also has one of the best relationships that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And his wife, Meg, they've been together since high school. He is, I think, going on maybe around 70. He's my scout leader, has 3 kids, just a great guy. He is the reason why I joined the Boy Scout troop that I joined. And in many ways, again, a secondary father figure.
Yeah.
So his wife had a stroke 6 years ago, and she has been bedridden and unable to talk ever since. And they've been together since he was 18. So I went and saw him this winter, and he said to me, I mean, she's bedridden and she can't speak.
Yeah.
He said, I could have put her in a nursing home, but I would be there every day visiting her anyway. I'd be there all day. So I wanted her to be here at home with me. He also said, you know, when Meg and I started dating and I went on the submarine, he was in the Navy, he was on a submarine, and I'd come back, you know, on leave, she'd always be there waiting for me with cookies. She was always there for me then,
Wow.
So I'm always here for her now. Which is amazing to me. That blows my mind. That's a tough thing for anybody to do.
Yeah. I think it's amazing to see a relationship like that. To know someone older than us where their relationship has endured so successfully for so long.
I know. Even through
Very cool.
Even through a massive health issue.
Yeah.
But okay, so you're gonna have a baby with him, which is amazing. Yes. At one point, did you think you would never have a baby? Did you think I'm gonna be a dad? What were you thinking when you were 20?
Yeah, I don't think I ever thought I'm never gonna have a baby, but definitely, like, I don't want this right now for most of my life. Yeah. You know, and I'm actually really. It's great to be in a spot where Brittany and I both kind of simultaneously made the decision we're ready for this and we want this. Yeah. And it was nice to be kind of on the same team about that, you know. Because people have all kinds of different paths to having their first child, you know, and
it's huge.
It's worked out very nicely for us, I think.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you some questions around sales.
Okay.
I consider you a... Do you have any other thoughts on the relationship stuff?
No. But if you can vamp for like 30 seconds, I'm going to go use the bathroom, and I will be right back.
Yeah. Also, hey.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's up to you.
Or you wanted me to do something with my video? I'm not really following.
Like?
I've got my paper over mine, so I can't see it.
Oh, okay. I just do this.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder if I can pause this. Removing this, maybe.
Okay, bud.
Hey, okay, we're still recording.
You know, I You already know this, but I started drinking a lot more water because of you. because of you. I went on a trip.
I gotta finish this in the next 20 minutes. I gotta catch up.
So sometimes you just gotta go. Here, I got a glass of water here too with my tea.
Yeah, I would like my dream home someday. My island dream home. I would like several features. 1, a lot of windows. 2, outdoor shower. I tell you, outdoor showers are a thing that makes a person happy. It's great to take a shower and you're outside and it's a little chilly outside and you're taking a hot shower.
I agree.
It feels amazing. Number 3 would be a urinal in my bedroom. That would make my life so much easier. So much easier. I'd go to the bathroom, I'd say twice a night. And if it was a urinal that was a large urinal, so I wouldn't miss it.
Yeah.
It was right there next to my bed. Maybe just a floor drain. And I could just pivot and just still kind of be in bed. Because I often, you gotta walk into the bathroom, you gotta turn on the light and close your eyes so the light doesn't wake you up, and then go to the bathroom. You gotta go back to bed. A floor drain makes sense.
Maybe we could even get some sort of catheter system going, so you don't even have to. You don't even have to wake up, really.
every night you
can actually
a catheter.
But then you can regress and learn to pee your bed again.
I mean, you know what? I don't know if you get those fast drying sheets.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do this now. I'm single.
You're good.
I can do this now.
You're good with the tube. You just need to learn to pee in your sleep again.
Oh, okay. And also put a catheter. And also put a catheter in your member as well. Yeah. Which I don't think I've ever had a catheter before.
No, me neither. It sounds like it would be very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are you looking at?
I was making sure that the mic is recording just in case. I'm so paranoid now. We've had gold so far. You'd be like, no.
I mean, do you think this is going well? Is this going well?
It's a terrible interview.
Hey, can I just say, by the way,
hey.
I think this is so fantastic that you're doing this. First of all, it's a cool project that you're interviewing some people that you know, people that in your life.
My butts.
But I'm kind of seeing this as what's that club where you learn to do public speaking, like Toastmasters or something like that? Does that sound familiar? Yes. You go practice public speaking. This is like you've got a club going right now where we can practice interviewing.
Oh.
So back when you remember when I was in a couple of bands, and I did have the opportunity a couple times to do interviews. One of which was for a local, the City News or something like that. I think it was.
Yeah.
And then the other one was a live interview with the RIT radio station, some guy that had us come in. So it was me and 4 other dudes,
right.
And we did this interview. I had no idea what the guy was going to ask me. I was very unprepared, very nervous. And we did this interview, and we were trying to joke around and have a good time. And then afterwards, I ran into somebody, kind of an acquaintance, who said she had listened to the interview. She happened to stumble across it because she was listening to the station. And she looked at me and she said, "You guys sounded like jerks."
Oh. Whoa!
And that was definitely a blow to the ego.
Whoa.
But my number one goal with Ben DeGeorge's interview club is to learn to be able to do an interview and to not sound like a jerk. So let me know if I'm straying into jerk territory.
You sound great. So far, you have told me how much you love your wife, and we've also talked about
catheters,
empathy for other people.
Yeah.
So, and catheters are jerk neutral. Catheters are jerk neutral.
Okay.
The catheters have no moral value whatsoever.
So
no, it's a 0 on a scale of there are no catheter insults. I think. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. No one's walking around the street saying, "Man, that guy, he must have a catheter."
Right.
Oh, maybe they are.
Unless we're possibly unintentionally offending people that use catheters. But they can let us know in the comments of your YouTube video.
Remove that clip on catheters. Let me back it up. Catheters are serious things, and no one wants a catheter.
All right,
it's a public service announcement.
For any of Ben's friends and family that watch this video, feel free to comment on YouTube if we're straying into jerk territory with the catheter comments.
I apologize if you have a catheter. I don't want a catheter. I want a floor drain. Alex is the one that recommended the catheter. I said floor drain in my bathroom or a urinal. Just so you know.
All right. Okay.
I'm blaming you. I'm blaming you. All right. On a serious topic, I'm gonna ask you.
Moving on.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Sales skills.
Sales. Yeah.
I consider you a really good salesperson. This is one major aspect of your job, of us working together.
I've been doing sales for you and your company for like 12 years, or just did straight sales for about 10 years. Now I'm kind of doing some other stuff. But
I think you personally have been responsible putting out, placing half of our locations, if not a little more, right?
Something like that.
Half.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly, but I think it's something like that. Yeah.
What would you recommend to someone with no? What would you, if someone with no sales skills right out of college or no sales experience came to you? What would you say they should do on their first day on the job? First day, they say if they are selling, pick a product. They had to do cold sales. What would you say they should do first day?
I mean, there's so many like good pieces of advice you can give to people that are starting in sales.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that I always come back to when I really break it down and think about it is, it's not, it's like, it's integrity.
Yeah.
Like truth and integrity. And I think that for anybody in any field, or forget even your job, just in life in general, one of the greatest things you can do for yourself is to practice the habits of being honest and having integrity.
Fair.
And I think that's particularly important in the sales field where there's, it can sometimes feel like there's opportunities to go into that gray area. And if you're not careful, and depending on your job and the culture of your company, there could potentially be, even encouragement to not to lie or anything about your product, but to not be as honest as possible. I think there's a big difference between, I guess I want to break it down. Like there's a big difference between, it's not just telling the truth or lying in your life. There's like this whole vast gray area of like how accurately are you using your words to represent XYZ, whatever. And I think that people, when you're doing sales, people are going to be so much more likely to want to interact with you and hear what you have to say about your product, about yourself, whatever it may be, if you're pursuing in your mind exactly with the highest accuracy.
Right.
What you're talking about. So the way to do that, strictly sales speaking, is to have a deep, deep understanding of the product that you're selling, the company that you're working for, the competition, whatever the competition is, the competing products, and the customers that you're selling to. And that can take a lot of kind of research and not just research, but like experience. So it's not something you're going to necessarily have all of that on day one. Right. But nobody's like a great salesperson on day one, or you're not really good at selling your product on day one. It's something,
even an experienced salesperson.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can be learning about all these things throughout your whole life. But like, have you ever heard of that this is like an interview question that people will ask salespeople. I worked with a sales guy once that said, you know, he had actually multiple times been asked in sales interviews, "Sell me this pen," and like the interviewer handed him a pen. Like, have you ever heard that kind of interview question?
I mean,
so go ahead.
I don't know about that one. That's interesting. That's interesting.
Think about that as an interview question. First of all, I kind of think that's a terrible interview question.
That's a terrible interview question. So I think instead he's not the right market to sell a pen to. Mm-hmm. You're trying to sell pens to Staples.
You also don't know anything about that pen that he just handed you.
Yeah.
That's like an interviewer handing you a pen and saying, "Sell me something you know nothing about to prove to me that you can BS your way through anything."
If I was in a car dealership, I could sell a car to people walking in the door to buy cars. But like, there are no door-to-door pen salesmen. There are door-to-door people who go door-to-door and try to sell roof replacements.
Right.
That's an effective sales strategy. Or someone who door-to-door termite, whatever, right?
So if I'm going to be a pen salesman, right?
Yeah.
I want to be using the pen that I'm selling all the time. Even if I'm used to using a computer, like I want to start taking notes with a pen and like learn about that pen and feel what it's like to write with it and appreciate the written word. Yeah. And I want to try all the other pens out there, that are competitive products and see what they're like and see what their strengths and weaknesses are. Yeah. And to be able to use, because I know people that, take notes with pens all the time. I mean, I got my little notepad next to my computer as well. I happen to prefer a pen that like glides nicely and leaves a kind of a really dark ink on it, so that when I'm scanning something that I've signed, it comes through, and I'm sending it to someone else, and they're scanning it back. So like, I even have like an appreciation, a minor appreciation for different kinds of pens. Or if like my pen is the cheapest on the market, I want to be able to understand what the pros and cons are that make it the cheapest on the market, and then be able to sell that to someone that needs cheap pens. Right. But like, essentially, I look at sales as having a deep understanding of all of those things. What I'm selling, the competition, the customer, XYZ, and then finding the language through practice of being able to represent that value in as accurate a way as possible. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I'm actually not trying to convince anybody of anything. I'm just trying to put in the work to find the people that are actually going to respond to like what I have to offer.
They're the market for that pen.
Yeah, but you have to, in order to connect with those people, you have to be very accurate and compelling, and have good social skills, interpersonal skills as well. So I guess maybe for a new salesperson, if anybody ever did ask me for advice like that, I would issue some sort of advice along those lines.
I think that I love having a sales foundation in the business world. I feel like that is a very, very, very important place to start. From the entrepreneurial perspective. And I mean, I am fortunate that I developed sales skills. I thought at one point, when I was 10 years old, I was going to end up being a math professor someday. Nothing wrong with being a math professor. That would have been awesome.
Wait. So, we all get asked, like, when we were kids, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And everybody's like, I want to be a rock star or an astronaut. And you were like, I want to be a math professor?
I wanted to be a detective.
Okay.
But I thought...
See, that sounds more like a typical little kid answer.
I want to be a detective. I had like this little flip book,
and
like a little magnifying glass, and I walk around and look at bugs, and like try to solve little made up things, and
like the Hardy, the Hardy Boys.
Yeah, I was like rocking around the neighborhood trying to figure out what that house is doing. What are they doing in there? The neighbors down the street. That's kind of what I was doing. So
I interrupted you.
No.
So little Ben wanted to be a math professor after he wanted to be a detective.
But instead, I ended up being a person that developed,
an entrepreneur,
the entrepreneurial skills.
Yeah,
which is huge, and I'm thankful I did.
Yeah.
Part of it was I had to, Let me ask you this: favorite sales mistakes you have made?
This is a very interesting question.
Yeah.
because I make mistakes every day, whether it be sales or anything.
I love that humility. It
Well,
helps us get better.
We're all making mistakes.
It helps us get better.
24/7.
We don't need to feel guilty about that, but it helps us get better.
Well, just kind of like idiots running around bumping into walls, and like hopefully over time we're bumping into less walls and like actually getting through the door. But I actually when I first started in sales, I thought the whole thing was a mistake. So like being in sales at all is my favorite mistake because I mean I've already talked about how clinically I'm gonna say antisocial I was when I was younger. And then building those skills in college to the point where you actually thought that I was worth offering a sales job to.
The most gregarious person in Geneseo, New York, this guy.
All right. So, wait, let's just go back to this moment. So, I hadn't even talked with you for a while.
Yeah.
I after our classes ended, I had even failed to show up to the... Do you remember this? I failed to show up to our final presentation. I missed it. Accidentally.
I remember that.
Slept through my alarm, and then you covered for me. I still somehow got to be in the class, which was amazing. But despite that, I got a call from you one day, like towards the end of our senior year. I didn't know what I was going to be doing after college. I was freaking out. A lot of people freak out when they're about to leave college. What am I going to do with my life? Am I going to get a job? I have to go interview. And you called me up and you said, "Hey, Alex, I think you said something like, I wanted to see if I want to talk about a project with you." It was like something like that. You didn't say anything about any business or jobs or anything. And you had me meet you at Kelly's, the local dive bar in Geneseo.
It's the best place in the world.
And you bought me a beer, which was very nice of you.
Schmidt.
I just remember it was a beer with like a flying duck on the can.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then you just unloaded this whopper on me. "Alex, do you want to come work for my family's business?" And I couldn't believe what was happening. And you said, "It's a sales job." I'm like, "You want me to do sales?" It just seems so foreign, like an alternate universe, alternate reality kind of thing. Because you could have asked me, what are you most likely to do professionally, Alex?
What would you have
and said? The absolute last thing on the list, maybe after Olympic gymnast or something like that, would be salesperson.
Really?
Yeah. So, but you offered me this job.
Yeah.
And it was I'm going to be employed after college. This is amazing.
I love that.
I just said yes, definitely. Count me in.
Love it.
And then I'm like, can I actually do this? Be a salesperson? And then it was just this wild learning curve of the first day. I think I related this to you, or felt my first day of sales. I just went off out on my own to Buffalo and drove around all day, just trying to work up the courage to knock
to do
on one door.
Amazing.
It was so terrifying to me. And I imagine that all salespeople have a similar experience of terror. Maybe some people find it very comfortable up front. I don't know, but for me it was.
I doubt it.
Unbelievably scary. But it was kind of do or die, and I guess I've always been kind of a do person. So, so I did, and here we are. So,
and you've done awesome.
Best mistake ever.
I want to tell you about a mistake I made.
Yeah.
This was when I was junior in college, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working at the family business.
Yeah.
In the summertime, hauling bags with my friend Brett. This might have been maybe sophomore year.
Clothing bags.
Junior, clothing bags.
Okay.
And we were in the afternoon. We were there working a summer job hauling bags. And a phone call came into the office. And I was instructed while I was there. I was the only person, along with my friend Brett, working at that time in the office. I was instructed if a call came in for me to go in and take it and write it down, if it was important, relay it to my dad or someone else. Mm-hmm. So I went in, and it was one of our customers, and I took the call, but it was recorded on the voicemail. My call was recorded on the voicemail, and I stumbled through the call. The person said, "Yeah, I'm calling in with this problem," and I was like, well, I don't know what to do, and I'm here in the office alone, and they're like, well, I'm, hoping to have this problem solved. This is what's happening. They were very nice, and I was stumbling through my words, didn't know what to say.
Like you were very probably I was scared.
I was very scared. I was I was just talking, in stutters, and I wrote the person's information down, put it on my dad's desk. And then the next morning when my dad came into the office, he played the recording. So he heard the recording on the voicemail, and it was me stumbling through my words. And he called me up. I was, I think, in college then, or I had a couple summer jobs that year. Mm-hmm. So I was also working at a restaurant. And he said, I listened to your voicemail, the recording from your call yesterday. And I was like, oh, sorry, Dad. And he didn't give me any advice. All he said was, you got to work on that. And I was like, yeah. So after that, I read tons of sales books and tons of books on interpersonal relations and how to communicate with people. Mm-hmm. I read like 10 of them right off the bat. And it was purely from my dad saying, you got to work on that. And that is one of my favorite mistakes that I'm proud of. I'm really happy that recording was recorded. I'm very, very happy that happened, because I'm not sure, maybe it would have taken me longer to develop those skills.
I'm sure if there were recordings of conversations I had with people early on in my career, like when we first started, it would be the exact same thing. And it's kind of nice to share that kind of experience, or to share those kind of stories. Yeah. Like if when I was about to leave college, if I could have a couple of guys like us share those experiences and say, look, you're going to sound like a moron at like early on, and just, we all do. Because like when you start in some sort of professional environment,
everybody seems,
you're just looking up at all these professional people that all seem so smooth and like just very good at what they're doing, and they can talk nicely, and you're just like,
hello? Is Mr. Smith there?
Just like terrified, trying to fit in. Like that was my same thing with my first my internship that I did in college. I felt like such a fish out of water. Yeah. It would have been nice to know that like all of those people started off as bumbling idiots.
I think they possibly did. Probably.
Maybe not all of them. I mean, maybe some people are just smooth, but. Not me.
I know a few people who I grew up with who I just have always assumed they were always smooth.
Yeah.
I'd be curious. I would like to now ask them, what was it like in the beginning? Where was it not smooth?
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts on sales? It's fun.
Nothing off the top of my head.
It is a thrill. Yeah. I think it is an exciting career for anybody to take on. It's thrilling when someone says yes to whatever you're asking them to do, and that can be calling, that can be with your home, and you're calling a town, office someone who works for the town where your home is, and you're asking them to reduce your assessment, and they eventually say yes. That's thrilling. All that stuff is thrilling, I would say. Right? I mean, you feel that way. It
can be a very like roller coaster of emotions kind of activity to be in, which it can have that extreme excitement, but also also despair. Like the constant stream of successes and rejections can kind of take you all over the place. Ooh. And you certainly, like as you get,
glad we're going down this route.
As you get better at sales, you can kind of balance your emotions around all that stuff, but to some degree it always still is a little bit of a roller coaster. I mean, I suppose every endeavor is, but
that involves Yes, that involves putting yourself out there,
Right.
To have some sort of thing you're trying to get. Yes,
But I would say there's something particularly valuable in being involved in sales.
Yeah.
In terms of learning to deal with rejection, that can help you in all areas of your life really pursue success at whatever you're doing. Because you really, with anything you're doing in life, you have to be ready to fail. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You have to be ready to fail. You have to appreciate failure. I mean, you and I are people, I think.
Love that.
I think you and I can both agree that we are lovers of failure and rejection.
Yes.
Because you have to learn to be.
Yeah, and proud that you went through that experience.
Yes.
Because some people don't want that rejection. No one wants that rejection. We don't want that.
Right.
But
it is your path. It's part of your journey.
It's part of the journey. I heard this recently on a podcast, and it was somewhat of an entrepreneurial podcast. And the guy said, he was talking about the current economic environment, the stock market, whatever. Mm-hmm. His business was going through some challenges. And he said, well, this is how I always view it. I stood in line to get on this roller coaster. I waited in line for this. I paid money to be on this roller coaster, and I am the one that decided to experience the ups and downs of this beautiful roller coaster. Right. I waited in line for this. So that's stuck with me recently when I think of the emotional journey of being in business, of doing sales.
Yeah.
We stand in line for these experiences. We decide we want to have these things, and I love that. Yeah.
And it should be noted that life in the grand scheme is that way. But there are ways to have a more balanced, kind of peaceful life and minimize the ups and downs.
Yes.
And part of my growth as a person,
yes,
over the years has involved finding that center.
Yeah.
But like when you are in sales is like a concentration of that experience of the ups and downs.
I think that's correct.
And probably equally, with your entrepreneurial activities, owning a business or playing the stock market for that matter.
Oh man, I tell you, I'm so tempted to. We've talked about this. I'm so tempted at times to make active stock market trades, but then I specifically decide not to because I don't want to ride that emotional roller coaster from that perspective, and because some people are very good at that. Mm-hmm. I know for me, I do not like being on that level of an emotional roller coaster. One of my daily objectives is to generally reduce my stress.
Yeah,
I don't really love stress, so I love challenges. I love going after challenges and the challenges, and all the elements of the challenge. But I think reduction of stress is very important.
I love to hear you say that because people do rightfully talk about good stress versus bad stress.
Yes.
You can get into that and identify between those things.
Yeah.
But I actually like keeping the conversation simple, like the way you just said it. I do like to reduce stress in all forms of my life. Like my journey is about finding peace while still being productive.
Yeah, we can do both. We can still handle the challenges because there will be challenges that come across our plate.
Right.
There are every day. And part of our journey is knowing how to handle challenges. Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny, now that you say it, when some people talk about good stress, bad stress.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, is going on a bike ride and pushing hard on a bike ride stressful?
Yeah.
I would say it's kind of awesome.
When I talk about stress, I kind of am really
think of the bad stuff.
I'm using it.
So do I.
I'm using it as like a synonym for anxiety, more or less. Like anxiety is my stress.
So I told you, fair. I told you earlier one thing I've done recently, which I've already seen some positives from this. I have been reducing my caffeine intake down to almost zero. So from college on, I think junior year of college, I started drinking coffee. I had coffee every day through college, every day through my career. So far, I even have taken instant coffee on camping trips. So I'm in the woods. I'm going out of my way to make instant coffee.
Yeah.
Just mixing it up with water and then drinking it. But I decided recently to switch to tea, and I also have started meditating for 5 minutes a day. Only 5 minutes. I've tried meditation over the years, and I've tried it twice when I was handling really stressful situations. One really personal stressful situation, one business stressful situation. Both times I used meditation as a tool. But it started with reduction of caffeine down to almost zero.
Okay.
And then I've been having 5 minutes of meditation every day, plus a bunch of other healthy habits that have bolted onto it. I have felt more level throughout the day. There's been no spike due to caffeine. No spike in my morning. So oftentimes problems come to me in the morning, business problems.
Yeah.
So it's good if I don't have caffeine in me because I don't spike as much emotionally when those things occur.
I love that you've identified that that's the benefit.
Huge.
Of coming down off caffeine.
Huge. I don't have a spike as much.
Would you say that the word is balance? Like you have a balanced day as opposed to of like the up and down?
Like the up and down. Yeah,
that's what I think about,
I feel more
like keeping
level.
things in
I feel
level.
more level.
Okay.
Balanced.
Internally, I'm always using the word balance when I'm thinking about, pursuing that ideal, state of being.
Yes.
I think because all things are in balance. I'm not like a spiritual guy or anything, but there's always a good side and a bad side to everything. Right. I've heard you say many times that our greatest strengths are also our greatest weaknesses. They're just it's like a double-edged sword, which I strongly believe in. And it's like to me, the right path forward for personal, I guess I'll come back to happiness, is finding balance in all things. So to me that was a little story with coming down off your caffeine, of having a more balanced day rather than a spike and a drop.
Do you feel like you're pretty balanced now? Or is there any area that's out of balance?
Compared to even just a year or two ago, I feel like I'm infinitely more balanced than I was. I used to be very unbalanced. I mean, I'll just come out and say, 'cause I tell this to everybody that I'm a recovered alcoholic, so and I've been sober for a long time now.
Yeah.
But that's about as being in that state of dependency is as unbalanced as you can possibly be, because you're always pursuing that escape, that high. So yeah, I mean, looking at who I am today compared to a year ago, compared to 5 years ago, compared to 10 years ago, it's I'm as balanced as I can possibly be. Now that's not true. There's I have so much more to learn, but
well, you've achieved. You have a lot happening in your life at all times. You just finished your memoir. I don't know if I can mention that.
You can mention whatever you want, man. I'm an open book, pun intended.
He just finished a memoir. He also recently started lifting weights.
That's true.
Which is awesome. You're outside all the time. You have this rich relationship with Brittany. You're successful in your career. You also have a rich friend group, and you're close with your family.
Yeah.
You seem to have the right stuff happening. I mean,
yeah, it's just knocking down those dominoes one at a time over the course of many years.
It kind of took you. It seems like you took on, or you've done all those things. All those things have come to a head now, where all of them are in place. Right?
Yeah. Yep. And my final hurdle really has been chronic pain. I've dealt with chronic back pain for years. Yeah. And I'm finally kind of getting a grasp on that, and that's part of the lifting weights. Which, on a tangent, it's not so much lifting weights anymore as doing a lot of calisthenics. I'm realizing that I enjoy that more. But regardless, that's been really helping a lot with the chronic pain, which I've told you about in the past. I've started using a stand-up desk a lot, which helps with my posture. A bunch of different stuff. Getting regular massage therapy. I'm lucky to be able to have that. Yeah. And so that's my current journey. That's kind of been keeping me unbalanced still, even though I have all those good things in my life. But that's been improving a lot lately. So yeah, I feel like I'm right, to answer your question, right on that brink of being where I want to be. In terms of my life satisfaction, I guess.
What was it like to be really unbalanced?
it's kind of hard to really go back into that place and think
so
about
far away.
think about the person that I used to be, and to put myself like vicariously back in that position.
Yeah.
But it's it's like miserable, man. I mean, hey, people all over the world, they know what it feels like to be miserable. All right, my dogs are like battling in the living room right now. Hey!
What?
Goodbye.
Do you have advice for someone battling addiction? Or battling a situation that is pervasive like that?
Yes.
And continuous? Yeah.
I mean, it depends. If you're first of all, addiction is a symptom of mental health issues. I firmly believe that. Addiction is not the problem if you're an addict. Addiction is the solution that you're trying to implement to the real problem, which is that your mind is unbalanced.
Yeah.
Just so we'll keep that theme since I brought it up, the balance theme.
Yeah.
But you can be in so many different places with an addiction or with mental health issues,
Sure.
And everybody's heard about when you're in that place, whether you deny that you're in that place or not, that's like the first step is to accept. But depending on where you are at the place, it really doesn't matter where you are in terms of your mental health issues. The best thing you could possibly intentionally do that's pretty much going to be beneficial for anybody is to, rather than keep it all to yourself, find someone that you can legitimately trust to talk with about it. And usually the best person to talk with is someone that has some sort of experience with the problem that you're experiencing. I mean, it may be hard to find that person. Sometimes you might want to talk with someone, but they're actually not the right person to talk with. Sometimes you get the wrong kind of advice from people. So in that pursuit of finding people to talk with that you can share your experience and issues with and possibly learn from, it's actually a trial and error process. You can't just hope that the first person you talk with is going to help you figure out your problem.
Right.
You got to, and it's very, very hard to do when you're in that place, because lots of times when you're suffering from mental health issues, there's a deep sense of shame involved with that, and shame makes you want to withdraw and keep it to yourself. So it's easy to kind of give that advice in hindsight, because in my journey, I've only been able to accomplish, personally, what I've accomplished through learning from other people. I think that's true for everybody.
We need that. I would imagine it's very hard for someone to do that on their own completely. You kind of did it on your own, though. Kind of. Well, you had Brittany there. Right?
So in terms of recovering from addiction, I didn't necessarily take the path that the average layperson would think of, you're going to go to AA and do a 12-step program or whatever.
Right.
That's what probably the average person thinks recovering from addiction is. Right. And for a lot of people, that is hugely beneficial.
Very effective path.
That's the way to do it. So I actually, where I learned from other people was through online research.
Okay.
So once I finally accepted and understood the severity of my problem, right. I started, and that something had to change because I was having that kind of what people call a rock bottom moment, the scales tip, and it's something's got to change, or I'm gonna die. Whether it's now or a year from now or 5 years from now, I'm not gonna live my full lifespan. When that becomes very real. Fortunately, I was in a mind space where I knew that was the moment things had to change. So, at that moment, I had been avoiding learning about my problem. Yeah. Because it was shameful and it was very difficult to deal with. Yeah. But at that point, I did start Googling a lot of information. In my case, about alcoholism.
Sure.
And just learning some science behind it, and reading stories from other people. And actually, I did interact with AA, even though I didn't go to AA meetings. I read part of the AA handbook where they have stories from people that are recovered There's different lingo, but recovered alcoholics. And just learning that other people had similar experiences to me and how they dealt with it. That was like a huge foundation for me being able to make a transition to a better life. So I know from your perspective and maybe how I've portrayed it in the past, it was kind of like a solo journey and I quote unquote did it on my own. But no. There were people that I never met that made an impact on me. Wow. And so I know you asked me for like what advice I would give, and I would say find someone to talk with. But maybe the better advice is find someone to learn from, and that can actually involve the written word. or YouTube videos. I mean, whatever's out there.
Tons of videos now.
But that's not. But we just can't. I mean, we think we're very good at figuring things out. You know, you and I, we think we're such good problem solvers. but
most of the problems, most of the things that we believe or think, we have heard from other people.
We are absorbing that from society, from the community around us, from people that have figured stuff out before us.
All the mental models that we use to guide our lives, we heard this from we heard it all from other people, right?
Yeah,
all of it.
Yeah, there's nothing original. There's a few true originals out there that really, but that's not us.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think that might be correct. that might be correct. Yeah, and okay. So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts on mental health and how? Well, we touched on this a little bit, but what elements do you think are needed throughout a week to max out overall happiness?
I can only speak for myself. Yes. And I think it's important to, when you frame that question, like when you ask that question, you're kind of making the assumption that there is a definable set of elements that can lead to happiness. And not everybody looks at the world that way. I actually do happen to look at the world that way, so I like that you're asking me that question.
I guess we both look at the world that way.
We do, yeah. Yeah, right? and I'm excited to talk about it a little bit, but it's also worth acknowledging that there are many, many people in the world that don't look at that world that way. True. They may think happiness is not important,
right?
Or not achievable. I actually, used to think happiness was not an option for me. So if you had asked me that question, I would have not had an answer for you.
That's amazing.
But like in terms of, I've met people that subscribe to like the Christian religion, for example. Yeah. That don't, that just say like happiness is not important. Like devotion to God is important. And I very much respect that worldview. I hope that people are finding fulfillment. But I know people that think that, to serve is more important than to be happy. But at any rate, to actually answer your question.
I guess I now take it for granted that I think that happiness is the most important thing.
Right.
Now I think I take that belief for granted.
Right. And I kind of do too.
It's so funny, right?
Yeah.
Wait, it's like rewind.
Yeah. Which on some level you might say kind of makes us like selfish people to view the world in that way.
I think I don't
necessarily see that as a bad thing.
I also at one point did not view the goal as happiness. So we both may have at one point.
The goal was like achievement, maybe at one point. Right. I know you. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. No, me too, though. Actually,
now it's happiness for both of us.
Yeah, there was a phase of a long phase of my life where happiness wasn't even like. I was just like, well, that's never going to happen. But the thing that I need to do is to impress the people that I haven't impressed before, or like to achieve something, or to like be important.
Yes.
What was that book? What's that famous book? How to. It's like a self-help book that's like an older book, and I know you've read it.
How to Win Friends and Influence.
That's the one, yeah. And I didn't read the whole thing, but I did read like the first chapter of that at one point, and it was talking about how people have the need to feel important.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, that's actually right on. Like, I spent a lot of my life feeling like I need to be important, ultimately so that other people will love me.
They want to feel important to other people.
Yeah.
It could even be just a small circle of their best people,
There's still a part of
their
me.
family and friends.
Yeah, there's still a part of me that thinks that way. But at the end of the day, to get back to your actual question.
No. So it's so funny that we're discussing.
Okay.
It is interesting. Maybe if we had done this interview a decade ago, the question would have been, what elements do you think are needed in a week to max out overall success?
Like that.
Now the question is, what elements do you think are needed in a week to max out the overall happiness? It's so funny.
I love that observe.
That has changed. I wasn't thinking about happiness, a decade ago or 15 years ago.
Yeah, and I would have been better off if I was probably at that time. Like we've evolved to the point. Well, I don't know. Maybe I needed to do what I did.
You got to have that mental. Maybe you have to have that motivation. We don't have to. I mean, there are some very happy people who are just living their lives, being with people, being social, not necessarily seeking achievement.
Yeah.
So I heard an anecdote that when Europeans initially landed in Australia, there were the group of native Australians that they came across close to Sydney. There wasn't, and again, this is an anecdote, maybe off. There wasn't a set power structure in the groups of people. Everybody was just kind of living with each other like hippies, and hanging out with their family and their best friends, and going to hunt and sharing with each other. And they seemed generally happy from the perspective of the Europeans, which I found that fascinating.
Yeah,
but I will go back to that question. So the elements.
Oh, it's a fantastic question.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I need that. Like I think I mentioned this before. I need to love. Like I need to actively love. And I need to be loved. Like I need that social, whether it's family most importantly. But then also I like to have friends where we can like share that love. That really brings me joy. I need freedom from a lot of things. Freedom from chronic pain, which has been, I feel like not my latest, but like my final battle, for the moment, anyways. Freedom from. Well, I guess when I say chronic pain, I don't necessarily just mean physical pain, but mental pain or mental anguish as well. So freedom from pain, and that doesn't mean freedom from all pain forever. That's just freedom from chronic pain. Right. We all have challenges and pain, like every day even there's something. But we can like handle that and overcome. Yes. Whereas chronic pain is like a mind killer.
Yes.
So freedom from that, freedom, being financially stable. Right. And I think when you were talking with Joe Norman, I watched your interview with him. He did a great job, or one of you were talking about how money, finance is really a path to freedom. Freedom from want, I guess, is essentially the way to put it. So that contributes to my happiness, and being able to connect with nature, not just be in nature, but connect with nature, brings me so much peace to my inner anxiety, my chronic anxiety that I've had all my life. Sunlight, I feel like I have to have sunlight, and we live in a part of the world where we go for months. Well, you've been in Florida. You guys get a lot of sun down there.
We get some sun down there.
but in the Great Lakes country, as you know, the whole winter is like is cloud cover. So that's been something I've been kind of struggling with for a long time, and I've just finally figured out that I need to get outside on those sunny days. I gotta find a way to get outside. I gotta get out there. Walking the dogs, going for a bike ride, going for a swim, spending time on my paddleboard on the lake. I need to I never used to check the weather report. Now a part of my happiness plan is to actually check the weather report so I can mentally prepare when there's a sunny day coming up on Tuesday or Thursday or whatever. I'm going to do something outside on that day.
I like that you called it your happiness plan.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good.
All right, can I like trademark that right now?
Yes. Happiness plan. It'll be a book.
All right, yeah,
Your next book.
we're about to write co-author a self-help book called The Happiness Plan.
Happiness plan.
Coming soon to bookstores near you.
I think we could probably do it in like a chapter. just some bullet points, right?
So it's not.
It'd be the best book ever.
It's not really a book. It's like a short story.
It'll have a normal covers. It'll be hardcover.
Yeah.
It'll have a page inside.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to interrupt you.
I don't know if I had anything else to say.
You're checking the weather. All right, so
there's probably some other elements that I'm not thinking of, but that's a good cross section of legitimate elements for happiness.
you taking on nature with gusto,
Yeah.
and giving Mother Nature a big old hug,
Yeah.
has been somewhat of a new development over the last 3 or 4 years.
Like 2 years, I would say.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. I mean, it's kind of funny. I'm excited that you now in your mid-30s, you've become a nature person. You are a nature guy.
I'm becoming so passionate about it.
Huge.
Which
I don't know anybody else who in their 30s then all of a sudden became someone that's really big into nature. I don't know anyone else.
Which doesn't mean not like conservation. Like I'm not a tree hugger.
No, you're just enjoying nature.
But I am a tree lover. So
it's not that
because we all are in we are nature. People are nature.
Oh, yeah.
And we all, we all. If you have some people don't have backyards, but I happen to have a small backyard, and that's nature. You get outside. Yeah. You're looking at the grass, the trees, smelling the air. That's nature.
Yeah.
But we all, as we grow, I think we have this tendency as we grow older to pursue comfort. We buy a house where we can be comfortable in the house, and if we have the means, and we kind of surround ourselves with these things that are like I have a Sleep Number bed that I bought, which was like probably one of the more expensive things that I own because I really wanted to be comfortable at night sleeping and like reduce that chronic pain. So it's like pursuing that comfort and having nice like furniture and like decorations and stuff like that. But like being inside is it doesn't matter how nice your house is. When you're inside, at least I feel this, it's a very sterile place compared to the world outside.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like the second you walk in your front door, it's quiet. Now, maybe you got kids running around, or in my case, I have dogs that are still like battling in the living room right now, so they're making some noise. But like when you're outside and you stop, it's not walking to your car to go to work.
Yeah.
It's not even necessarily going on a run or a hike.
Yeah.
For me, it's stopping and slowing down and forgetting about the thing that's on my mind.
Yeah.
And this is similar to meditation.
Yes.
Or maybe it is meditation. And then actively, intentionally using all of my senses to like experience the world around me. And there's if you just stop and close your eyes and you're somewhere, like for me, I live near a beach, so I'll go down, I'll lay in the sand.
Yeah.
I used to think I don't want to get sand in on my body or in my hair. And then I was just like, I laid down in the sand one time and I'm like, man, sand is comfortable. And I just stopped worrying about getting sand on me because I was going to be dirty when I got home. Forget home. So like, I'll go down to the beach, I'll lay down in the sand and close my eyes and I'll listen.
Yeah.
And then I'll be aware for the first time of like the sound of some birds.
I love that.
And I'll be aware of the sound of what the like waves sound like
I love it.
nearby, and then all these other little sounds. These little you can like hear the breeze.
Yeah.
Because we're used to like feeling the breeze. How often do you think about hearing the breeze?
Good point.
And just like noticing that stuff, it just that's what I think of.
Just feel good.
Like what are the smells? Like for me, that's like connecting with nature. It's like getting outside of that sterile comfort and connecting with the big wide world. And that's just brought me a lot of inner peace, recently. It's like you can tell I'm excited about it. It's like the whole thing excites me.
I love that, and I going into nature is like going to the best art gallery in the world. You know?
Yeah.
You just walk around, and that's any time of the year. You can go out into a beautiful park in the wintertime, and the colors, there are so many different colors, and it's beautiful, and you can see what the sun looks like that day, what the clouds are looking like.
You can just
Look
go.
at that tree.
You could just go see those lilies that Monet painted, right?
Yeah.
And then like touch one.
In real life, and,
Yeah.
and it is amazing.
Yeah.
I definitely use nature as a way to pull me away from the day to day.
Yeah.
So I'm generally in nature every day.
You are.
At some point in the afternoon. I think you are now too.
I am. You've inspired
Yeah.
me in
Yeah.
part on this
Yeah.
journey. You know,
Yeah.
seeing how much time you spend outside was an inspiration for me.
Most evenings I'm doing something, or late afternoon I'm doing something in nature. So going to
Yeah.
the woods, going to a park, just walking around. Maybe it's listening to a podcast. Maybe it's going on a run, hike, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good transition for me. It transitions me away from any stress from the day, any work from the day,
Yeah.
and gets me into just a beautiful place. So I use that as a transition for the night. I also just like it, man.
Yeah.
It just feels good to be outside.
It feels so
It feels
good.
great.
I like for me water
Yeah.
water is like
Yeah, that's
sunlight and water. So if I can be outside on a day where the sun
That's
is
cool.
and plan that gives me a lot of goodness. And then if I can be near water, something about water I feel like is genetically it's in our DNA, man. Like
We need it.
all creatures in this world need water to live, right? I don't know, but like, but like we definitely, as human beings, we need.
I
we
am
need
curious if there are any creatures that don't need water to live.
yeah, as soon as I said that, I'm like, it's probably some weirdo parasite or something that doesn't need water.
Doesn't-
But some sort of strange guy.
there's some guy out there that just doesn't drink water ever and is still alive. I don't know, maybe. Just YouTube that.
But like we all have water piped into our homes, right? So we take it for granted. But imagine back to our early days as humans, where it was like, wow, the anxiety goes away when you find a source of water to drink.
It's relaxing.
I feel like
'Cause
there's
you can
something
survive.
something within us where water brings us peace, or at least I feel like that.
No,
way myself.
I agree with you 1,000%. That's the reason why.
Yeah,
It's the most important but challenging to access thing that our body needs. One of the most challenging things. Food is a bit more challenging to access, but we can go longer without food. I mean, air is just there, right? So
air is just
like,
there.
oh, the air relaxes me so much. It's just there all the time.
Yeah.
So, do you have an objective when you go in nature? A goal?
I mean, that's the thing is to stop the racing. You know,
Yeah. I like that.
to just be. I mean, you hear this a lot. Being in the present.
Yeah.
Being in the moment.
Yeah.
I never understood that when I was young. Like I heard it and I was like, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
But I did not get it.
Yes.
And I finally can say that I understand that because that is the objective. And
Beautiful.
there's like some habits you have to build mentally
Beautiful.
in order to find that place. Like it's not like for me it was always like, okay, like with meditation, I never got that either. Like I tried it a few times and it was like I can't turn the switch on. I don't get it.
It's hard unless it's easy.
But
It's
then
hard to meditate unless it's easy.
that kind of makes sense to me.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut.
No, I just think I think it's like the kind of thing you got to learn, and I've been learning it over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
That nature is what's gotten me to that point, I guess, of being able to be in the moment and learning that skill. Like nature has like eased me into that.
Yes. And I think nature, access to nature doesn't just make us happy. It does make us smoother and better decision makers in our careers also.
Ooh.
So
Go on.
We're not just talking about happiness here, folks. We are talking about productivity. I've been a big believer in separation from work for my whole career. So for the most part, I try not to work in the evenings. I try not to work on the weekends.
Okay.
I like having separation because you still want to. It's still good to think about your career, think about your business, think about your work. But you need to remove yourself from the actual activity of it in order to reset and then come back fresh to your work, and come up with, when you come back fresh to your work, you're going to come up with ways that are possibly more efficient, possibly workarounds. You can see around you can see around the problem in a much clearer way.
100%.
But if you're in the middle of the thing all the time, you lose that perspective. This is just my opinion. So I think getting into nature is a massive reset, just like exercise is a massive reset. When you're exercising, you possibly are still thinking about work, but you are actually resetting your physiology. When you're going into nature, you're resetting your physiology. You're in a completely different place. You're walking around, most likely. So it does make you more productive, and it does make you better with your friendships and your relationships, because it's a reset, and it's so I think we need that to maximize happiness, but also productivity. We haven't talked much about productivity, but as an advocate for nature, I would say you will also become more productive if you take on this beautiful thing that's called nature.
So essentially, what you're saying is that when you are able to access that place of peace, through nature's like a tool. Nature's not like the end goal.
No.
It's the tool to get your mind to that like beautiful, present, peaceful place.
There.
And then once you're there, you get this kind of reset. I mean, I feel this too. Like I get this kind of reset, and the problems that
we need
we're just going over and over in my mind, the anxiety, the issues, the problem solving, that just never ends. When you are able to take yourself out of that and then it's almost like that stuff becomes. It's like, that's not as much of a problem as I thought it was, or that's not as painful as I thought it was, or that's not as scary as I thought it was. When you have that, for some reason, when you get that distance,
because look at nature. You're in nature, and you're like, wow, this is pretty beautiful. Like all in all, this park is pretty beautiful. The world is pretty nice right now.
It's like this. I feel like it's this mysterious thing, though.
Nature.
Yeah, there's like this mysterious thing that's like going on. I don't know what it is, but you're right. It is. It is incredibly beautiful.
It gets us back to what the way that most of our ancestors lived. Most of our ancestors spent way more time outside than inside. Yeah. Their whole lives were basically based outside. They may have had some rudimentary shelter, but they were just outside all the time, and they count. And that's our natural state. Our natural state wasn't to wear, hiking shoes when we hiked. It was just to walk around, right? Just for the heck of it. I had a point on nature that.
Did I get you off track?
No. Nature's good.
Nature's good. Call it around.
And it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a thing that. It doesn't have to be a thing that someone makes like plans around. So some people feel as if they need to specifically carve out special time to pop into nature, or they can do it on a Saturday. Which I get it. People are busy. Yeah. And I'm a guy. I'm a single guy, so I don't have a family. So that when you have all these priorities, family priorities plus work priorities, it makes it, I'm sure, much harder to pop into nature. But all it takes is 5 minutes. In the middle of your day, driving past a park, you can stop at a park, put a timer on your phone for 5 minutes, walk into the trees, look around, and then get back into your car and go. That's all it takes. I mean, that's not ideal, but you can still just make that part of your daily life. And I guarantee you won't regret that decision. If you did that for a month, 5 minutes in nature every day, your month will be a better month. It's a very simple thing to do. 5 minutes a day.
And I feel like that 5 minutes is a stepping stone, because when you really get the hang of it, you can't stop once you start.
and you're hooked.
Yeah, I mean, for me, yes, I don't necessarily get to it every day, but
sure.
Being outside, having that connection with nature every single day. I feel like 30 minutes is what I want minimum. but that's been my progression. But it's not just going outside. It's not like it's not like getting your steps in, your Fitbit or whatever. Like, it's not. You're not connecting with nature if you're like just walking through the park from your office to the place you're having lunch, unless you stop in the park and like turn everything off and be. a part of it.
So level 1 of accessing nature is just the walking through the park, focusing on their stuff. Level 2 is
That's where you.
I guess that level 2 is hugging a tree.
Yeah, I guess
and laying,
that's
laying
the journey,
in the sand
right?
and hearing the wind. That's level 2.
Or biking with your doggies.
Please do tell.
Yeah.
Do tell. So I'd like to do that later today if we can.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna say yes. Let's do that.
All right, let's do it.
But I mean, like one of the things, as you know, that kind of really started my journey with nature is we got a husky, which Brittany had always wanted a husky, like her whole life, but we lived in a small apartment.
Yeah.
We finally got this house that we live in now, where you and I are right now.
Yeah. Nice house.
I think it was like 3.5 years ago now, and immediately we got the husky. I was like very anxious about having a dog. I had never had a dog. It was like the hair, the slobber, the this, the that. Like I already have enough going on in my life without dealing with that kind of stuff. But I knew it was really important to her, so we got the dog. And the second we got the dog, and it's Maya. She's like literally at your feet right now, Ben.
She's so cute.
Yeah, she's a very sweet dog.
She's so cute.
Second we got her, I just fell in love with her, and I instantaneously became a dog person.
I love it.
And I became such a dog person that I'm like, I got excited. Okay, so we have a Siberian Husky. If we're gonna have a Husky, I might as well like tap into her abilities as a sled dog.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there.
Yeah.
So got the, not that I got a dog sled, but got the harness,
That's next up.
got the leads, got like a special antenna. I bought a bike, an antenna that goes on the bike that keeps the lead out of the wheel.
Yeah.
And we've been biking ever since. We started with like kind of more like road biking, paved paths, and now we're doing like mountain biking.
Sure.
We just started doing recently.
So cool, man.
And we've got another husky, so I'm doing it with both of the dogs. But having that, I mean, that's a connection with nature. When you and your dog are working as a team to blitz,
rip through,
Yeah.
rip on some trails.
rip down a path, and like
Yeah.
the trees are flying by,
Yeah.
and you're like, it's also very.
Hopefully we
it's also
don't see
very
a
exciting.
squirrel.
Yeah, exactly. Fortunately, I've never been pulled off the bike, but
When she sees a squirrel.
I have almost a couple of times. Yeah, squirrels and rabbits, they just go crazy for her. So I was once pulled off a scooter, though. I got a Razor scooter, and so sometimes when we're going around the neighborhood, she pulls me around on my Razor scooter.
Did you land on your feet, or did you like?
Oh,
did
no.
Did
It
you
was
body plant?
It was a face plant, my friend. But I'm pretty good at falling, so I just got a couple of scrapes on my elbows.
They're like, I would have loved to see the mindset of bystanders, right?
Standards, yeah, you got it.
Seeing you on a Razor scooter, a grown man with a beard,
Okay.
with a dog pulling you along, and you're ripping at what, 15 miles an hour on a Razor scooter.
Sometimes it
And
gets
the thing
pretty
is like
fast,
shaking because you're going so fast.
Yeah.
And then an animal comes across your path, and boom, she is gone.
Well, apart from bystanders watching me fall and faceplant, I will say that legitimately one of the most exciting parts about it's called bike joring, or in this case it would be scooter joring if I'm using my scooter, but JORING joring.
Yes.
It's essentially dog sledding without a sled. You're using something with wheels.
Love it.
Or you can ski jor with skis or whatever. But one of the legitimately most exciting parts about that is seeing the reaction from people as we pass them, because generally, like 90% of people just like start smiling when we see us.
It's amazing. It's pure joy.
They like point
Pure
like,
joy.
oh, that guy's getting pulled by his dog. That makes me so happy, and I feel kind of cool.
joy.
I feel kind of cool too when I'm doing it.
Pure joy. Whenever I travel to new cities, I cross my fingers hoping that they have those scooter rentals
Yeah.
that are on every street corner, because they're pure joy, right?
Yeah.
But like adding a dog is an extra element of joy that I'm sure they all want to be on that scooter when they see you doing that, right? They're like, that looks amazing.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
all want
some people out there. I've had people say, "Man, I should really do that with my dog."
Yes.
Because my dog loves to. Huskies are pullers, but there's other dogs that really will pull your arm off when they go for walks too. And like, this is a great outlet for them.
It's a great outlet. I love that you do that.
And for the record, you have you've tried this with Maya.
I think I tried the scootering and the biking. I think
that's
I tried
right. You
both.
did the scooter too. Yeah, I forgot about that.
That scooter goes fast. I was nervous,
especially when you start going downhill and the brakes aren't that good.
Well,
So it's looking a little dicey.
well, one thing I got to say about Rochester, New York, where we are right now, it's your home. It is my hometown. It's our home. There are a lot of amazing parks here. It is full of amazing parks. We went scootering in one of the trails along the Genesee River.
Right. I think it's the Genesee River Trail. Yeah. Anyways,
I think so.
I think that's what it's called.
I think so. Anywho.
Sorry.
All right. So
unnecessary interruption.
No, I have nothing else, honestly.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to take a swig of water and then ask you a question.
Hey,
I'll ask you the question, then take a swig of water. What?
I feel like we have so many good things we could talk about. I mean, keep this going.
This is a great.
I'm having such a good time, man.
I have two major questions, and I'm going to go to the restroom.
I was going to say,
and then we should keep on doing this.
I would love to go pee as well. and then maybe keep going.
Should we do that now and then
let's do this.
Okay, let me mark this.
As long as we're having a good time.
Let me mark this. Mark clip. Boom. Clip created from marker 205. I can mark the clips and then delete it. I probably won't delete it. I mean, it's just work.
Like if we had a radio show or a podcast, we would be having commercial breaks, right? Where we could go use the bathroom.
Yep. This is a commercial break for Tim Hortons. So I was in the South for this winter, and I just came right back up. And when I went to Ohio, I came across. I hadn't seen Tim Hortons in a long time, and I do enjoy their coffee. So I told you, I'm not on the caffeine kick, but I did have decaf Tim Hortons coffee. Still very good.
All right, this is your chance to try and get a Tim Hortons sponsorship. So if you want to, there you go.
Tim Hortons.
You gotta turn it around.
Canada's favorite coffee. Well, it says right here.
Oh, does it?
Canada's favorite coffee.
It's like huge on the other side.
Wow! Whoa! Tim Hortons. He has really good, clean, in cursive, and I like the angle of this as well. Yeah. I would say Tim Hortons, a good alternative to Dunkin'. Both solid decisions. I would promote both companies.
You're leaving the door open for a Dunkin' sponsorship.
We will take both sponsorships, and we'll alternate every episode, which comes first in the episode. But I mean, just like you go to every town has a Tim Hortons like next to a Dunkin' Donuts, right? We would like to do the same thing from the advertising perspective.
Exactly. And Mr. Horton, I would like to point out, just so you know, that this video is likely to get at least 80 views.
Yes. By us watching it again. Yeah. Over time. Like in a couple of years, I'm like, remember that interview? I want to watch that interview. No, it'll get some views. It's going to get some views. This is a good interview so far.
Good. We might have to split it up. We're going pretty long here. We might have to do part 1 and part 2.
We're 2 hours and 7 minutes in. Should I stop it and then re-record the? Should I stop this one so it's at 2 hours and then we go to the bathroom, come back, and start with the other questions?
Sure,
let's do it. Because it's then part 1 and part 2.
Yeah, or part 1, 2, and 3.
Let's do it. We should take the other one in a park. Part 3.
Part 3 in the park.
I'm gonna stop this.